Hi, I'm Kangaroo Sexton with Death and Psychedelics. I make t-shirts, patches, posters, and all sorts of random things that you can find at deathandpsychedelics.com. Links down there. But we're not here to talk about that today. I'm here to show you how to screen print yourself all while under the crushing weight of capitalism. On a budget and in the inadequately small dwelling that you're forced to live in. Also, you'll notice I have a stammer. This has never once caused me to say racially insensitive things, forget what political office I'm running for, or pass laws that target minorities. Just so we're clear. In this video series, I'm going to walk you through how I started screen printing, and show you that it's not as scary as you might think. I'll teach you how to make patches, shirts, posters, and how to repaste those posters on the walls that you of course have legal access to. So, even the smallest commercial spaces are a couple thousand square foot. You didn't have gear that on the low end starts at 10 to 20 grand. That's not what we're doing here today. I'm going to show you how to start for under $50 and not much more than $100 when all is said and done. This is how I started in a small efficiency apartment with not a lot of money nor space. So, first, let's talk about supplies. I was initially going to direct you towards a screen printing kit that has everything that you need to do everything we're talking about. But looking at the prices these days, they're frankly overpriced, and you can get much better quality things for a significantly lesser amount if you know where you're looking for. This right here is a screen I picked up at a craft store, made by Speedball. It's made the screen a couple years ago, and you can replace the screen on it. They hold up decently, and they work, but boy, are they expensive these days. Screen this size costs about $30 to $35, and I've seen them on larger sizes go up to $50. It's ridiculous. This is something that you're going to find in most professional shops. Aluminum frame with a pre-stretched screen glued to the frame. If you go to the right retailer or a screen supplier, these cost $25, and usually they'll have a program where once the screen gets messed up or you're ready to get a new screen on it, they'll replace it for about half the price. Paid about $25 for this originally, just got it restretched for about $12. Next, we're going to need something to push the ink through the screen. This is a squeegee. Wood paddle with a rubber blade on it, and they come in all sorts of shades of diameter. It costs about $2 to $3 an inch. Trust me, when you're there, you'll have plenty of them. This is another type of squeegee. It's generally for vinyl application in applying vinyl decals. It costs about $2 to $3, fairly firm plastic, and they're pretty awesome. Speedball makes one for about 8 inches long, works wonders. And this is a rewards card with duct tape on it. You can get them at most grocery stores for free. They work, and I'm not joking when I said we're going to do this on a budget. Next, we're going to talk about ink. Most commercial ink that you'll find is actually kind of hard to work with. It requires heating and other things. Speedball is the only consumer grade ink that you can really find that is self-curing and self-drying. Other things that we're going to need in here, it's going to need some wax paper, and you might want to pick up some photo emulsion ink. Costs about $20. It's great stuff. You'll also find something called draw fluid and fill fluid. Both of those are wonderful, and we'll teach you how to use those. So before we talk about what we're doing, let's talk about how you're going to get your supplies. Most major cities will have a screen supplier of some form. Just Google out screen printing supplies. You'll come up with some things. Some of these businesses are open to the public. Some of them require you to have an LLC and an EIN. Call ahead of time. Make sure that they're open to the public just so that you can get to them. If not, there are plenty of wonderful screen suppliers that have online footprints. And if you're in the South, I personally recommend GSG. This isn't paid. I just really like them. Also, don't use Atlas. Just don't. Okay, so before we get started, let's go over what we're doing. This image that you see right here is called a stencil. You can achieve this stencil by a number of different ways, one of which being photo emulsion, another being the draw and fill method. And in the next video, we're going to teach you the easiest and simplest way you can with wax paper. I'm really serious when I'm saying we're doing this on a budget. So, the process that you go through in order to screen print is the empty screen right here has all sorts of little holes in it because it's a screen. Our job is to push ink into those holes and then press it through the screen and through those holes onto the medium that we're printing on. Let's line it up. Get some ink out. Straighten up our screen. Now, what we're going to do first is a flood pass. That is low pressure, where we make sure that every part of the stencil that we want printed has ink in it. As you can see, there's a lot of ink there. Now we're going to pull all that ink down again, but now with some substantial pressure to push all that ink through the shirt. Go ahead and do that one more time just to make sure, because it's our first screw. Alright, then you have a shirt. It's really that simple. So now that you saw how easy it is, we just have a couple more things to talk about before you go out and get supplies and start doing this with us. First thing is that when you're getting a screen, you're going to see a lot of talk of screen count. That's like the mesh count on your sheets. It tells you how fine or how coarse the screen is, or just how many holes per inch it is. The finer the mesh, the more detailed the image. But also, the lower the mesh, the more ink that you can actually physically push through the screen at a time. You want to find a medium zone on this, because most of what you're printing is not going to need a lot of detail at all. You can usually get away with 110 like mesh count. And usually a good sweet spot for most people who are beginning printing is about 110 up to 150. The next thing is, if you want to spend the money and go and get yourself a nice squeegee, we're going to talk about durometer. You're going to see numbers listed with every squeegee, and it's going to ask you if you want a 60, a 70, or 100. Durometer is talking about just how hard the squeegee is, the rubber blade. A harder durometer is going to allow you to push more ink through the screen. And in some applications, it can also start to damage the screen. Well, the stencil. we're not really going to be printing in the volume that's going to happen. But what we are going to be doing is a lot of things that aren't necessarily best practices in a commercial shop. A harder durometer is usually a better bet as opposed to getting something with like a 50 or 60. I recommend shooting for like a 70 to 80 durometer. Now, in the next video that we do, I'm going to teach you how to start printing with nothing more than a screen, some ink, and some wax paper. We're going to be using our grocery store rewards card with duct tape on it. You're going to need some ink, some wax paper, a way to kill that wax, a way to cut that wax paper. Some spray adhesive is always a nice thing to have on hand. A flat surface, and whatever medium you want to get along, like print that on. Links for everything that I talked about in here, or at least everything that you're going to need and hard to find, is going to be right down below. Yeah. Take care of yourself, keep your head up, and be good. See you later.